I like what's the guy from Japan?
Inoue?
Yeah.
Do you foresee potentially at some day you guys meeting together, maybe at a catch weight, or maybe if he keeps going up in weight?
Probably.
Yeah.
That would be like a fun fight.
Crazy.
Yeah, that would be a fun fight. Now that would be technical. That fight right there, like me and him. But I think I'll be too big for him.
Probably, yeah.
I'll be too big for him. Yeah. But that fight would be like.
It's like a dream fight.
Yeah. Facts.
Since the beginning of boxing, weight classes right up to the bantamweight division were really lacking spectacular athletes. In the 90s, the problem was tackled a bit by Prince Hasim Hamed, who drew more attention than any heavyweight. However, when the Brit left the game, everything was in shambles once again to the beginning of the 2010s when another force appeared in the sports world. The Japanese monster named Naoya best finishers. Dear friends, today's video is dedicated to the most spectacular knockouts in the career of Naoya Inoue. Please don't forget about the likes, comments with forwards, and subscribe to the channel. Here we go! Number 1. Christian Omeao. Being an amateur, Inoue couldn't show off with great achievements. His record of 75-6 was not bad, even quite impressive. However, the Japanese lost the most important fights prior to turning professional. At some point, Kaibutsu and his father, who had been in the role of Naoya's main coach for multiple decades, figured that it's time to get done with an amateur career and move on. It happened in 2012 when Naoya debuted in the light featherweight division against the Filipino Christian Omeao with a record of 16-4. Inoue immediately let him know he was not a typical boxer. He incredibly quickly found his distance and measured his opponent with jabs, and then suddenly switched his attention to the body and scored a knockdown. Christian didn't like hard shots of the Japanese, and because he couldn't work out Naoya, the Filipino began to initiate dirty boxing in the pocket, when Naoya didn't step on the gas to the fullest. A talented monster quickly figured the opponent's idea out and didn't allow him to clinch. In the 4th round, the Filipino once again wanted to exchange in close range, but it was a mistake, as the uppercut was already waiting for him. Clean knockout with a single shot. Number 2. Naoprachan Chuatana. Naoya trains in his famous Japanese gym of the former double champion Hideyuki Ohashi, and right from the very first workout in this place, he adopted the most important rule: never accept fights against clearly weak opponents. Kaibutsu followed this simple concept throughout his entire career, and after more than 10 years of competing, he broke this rule only once, in his second professional bout. Back then, the Japanese agreed to fight a boxer with a negative record, and it was Naoprachan Chuatana from Thailand. There were at least 100 light years between the guys in terms of boxing skill, and Inoue was taller. Absolutely nothing could stop him from landing punches. A couple of precise jabs instantly landed on the Thai's head, and he wasn't looking to retreat and decided to work as the first number, which led to a beautiful finish. In the middle of the round, Chuatana rushed forward with a sloppy combination and was immediately shut down with a counter left hook. Terrifying KO. Number 3. Yuki Sano. While some take years to rack up records, Inoue needed only 2 bouts to get started. The Japanese and his team decided to quickly go after the belts of the main organizations, and to do so, they were ready for everything, even beating a couple of their fellow countrymen. The first one to get thrown under the bus was the veteran Yuki Sano, who just a few fights ago contested the championship of Japan, though unsuccessfully. Naoya boxed cautiously, but punched so hard that the shots were pushing Sano back. The monster consistently landed his best blow from the left, and of them scored a knockdown already in the beginning of the match. It wasn't the end of Naoya's determination, and after a couple of rounds of tactical battle, he barraged Yuki with shots, taking another round with a 10-8 score. The veteran's face was getting more and more bruised and cut, but surprisingly, received damage made Sano box better. It's almost like his shots got faster while Kaibutsu slowed down, getting tired of beating up a rock-solid countryman. But still, he ultimately couldn't break the tide of the fight, and in the 10th round, the rested prospect simply smashed the Japanese version of Die Hard. Number 4. Gerson Mancio. The next fight for Naoya happened to be quite atypical, as it went to a decision. Another Japanese with a decent record managed to survive 10 rounds with a mini T1000. Inoue clearly didn't like to go the full distance, so he decided to quickly bounce back and 3 months later agreed to fight Gerson Mancio. The fight was spiced up with an introduction of a vacant OPBF light flyweight title. You know, during the first 60 seconds, it seemed like Mancio had great attacks and could give Inoue problems. However, then the Japanese turned up with a long combination of hard punches and Gerson went down. That moment marked the end of competitiveness in the rivalry. Now it was time of pure dominance. Each of the Filipinos' looping shots got easily read, while big straights and hooks were landing at will. Kaibutsu effortlessly controlled the action in the ring, and when the moment came, he turned off his humanity and grinded the opponent's face bones to shreds. Number 5. Adrian Hernandez. Did you know that a record for the least fights before conquering the title in one of the main organizations is 3? And all records man champions were from Asia or Oceania, with the exception of a legendary Vasily Lomachenko. Sure, Inoue couldn't replicate such a sensational success, but to fight for the WBC belt, he needed only 6 fights. The title belonged to a skillful American, Adrian Hernandez, with 4 title defenses. Hernandez quickly realized that he was in a pretty bad situation. As soon as he began to move backwards and work as a second number, Inoue instantly started to batter him with long jabs and straights, and the pressure was completely out of the question. The Japanese brilliantly worked with pulls and punished the champion with long combinations of power shots. The Mexican spent 4 rounds trying to get his game plan going and almost found something in the middle of the fight. Leaning his head low, he approached the monster and worked with an uppercut series, which delivered the results, but it wasn't much. As he downloaded his opponent's tactic, in the 6th round, Naoya cut the distance and threw a deadly right. After such an explosion of pure energy, Adrian simply couldn't continue. Number 6. Samatlek Koketjum. At just 20 years of age and 6 professional fights, Naoya Inoue became the WBC champion. Actually, it's quite a standard situation for the flyweight and other lighter divisions. Tough young guys oftentimes get to the top quickly, however, it's a lot harder to stay there and only the best can pull that off. After just 4 months, a newborn champion had his first defense against Samatlek Koketjum, who only fought for secondary class titles. The monster didn't change his usual strategy and tried to pressure the opponent during the entire fight. Sometimes the Japanese's pressure was without strikes, he simply went after Samatlek, while he was covering his head in fear. In the first half of the bout, Naoya landed tens of shots with a terrifying precision and piercing power.
เกินกว่า108แล้วครับอยู่ได้ไม่นานครับแล้วทีนี้นี่สมานนี่เคยไปช็อปโลกน้องกอทาเลสมาแล้วนะครับจานของสามารถเล็กเลยนะครับอย่าเพิ่งต้องยอมนี่กะไล่
He sent the contender down twice, and it seemed like the fight could end at any second.
อุ้ยคราวนี้เอาบ้างโอ้ตัดลำตัวแม่จุกเลยนะครับโอ้โห
But then Inoue took a break. Honestly, it's impossible to beat up a man for so long and not get tired, so it's understandable. Contrary to the first half of the fight, the Thai started to look better. land more and show his activity. But when the champion rested, it was the end for Kokit Gym. For almost the entire 11th round, Naoya was beating his opponent up, and I'm even scared to imagine how long it could keep going if the referee didn't step in.
ยุติเลยครับดูกันไม่ได้ครับการที่เป็นการชกไปแล้วครับผมครับ
Number 7. Omar Narvaez. It was finally the time for Inoue to change the weight class. While some boxers linked that to a reluctance of wanting to cut that much weight or a conquest for another title, for Naoya it was necessary in terms of media exposure. Nobody was interested in fights between teenagers with skinny hands. The second home for the Japanese happened to be the super flyweight division, and the debut opponent was a long-time WBO champion and once one of the best boxers of the division, Omar Narvaez. El Huracan was already past his prime but was still dangerous. I'm sure that all of you remember the legendary first fight between Frazier and Foreman, so it was the same thing, but the guys were 2 times smaller. A contender with a punch of Colossus beat all the crap out of the experienced champion. In the first round, Omar went down twice from seemingly light shots and then survived for a couple of minutes trying to evade the monster at any cost. The second round was a lot more measured. The champion gained some confidence and decided to counterattack, but he likely forgot his chin at home, and Inoue put him on fire with a couple of strikes once again. Not knowing what to do, the Argentinian put up a high guard, but the Japanese took another approach and unloaded with shots to the body, which happened to be the last nail in the coffin. This fight resembled Mortal Kombat in terms of violence. I bet that at the moment of the finish, the arena heard Inoue won. Fatality.
Izquierda y Narváez a la lona, me parece que se acaba, Busca el hígado, busca arriba.
Number 8. Walito Parenas. Naoya dismantled the champion in a way that it seemed like he was a random guy and never supposed to be close to the title. At that moment, Kaibutsu was seen as a future star for the first time, but before achieving this status, he had to decapitate many bodies. As the new owner of the WBO Championship, only title defenses were on Inoue's mind. The first one of them was set against the Filipino Walito Parenas, who had 5 fights in 2014, finishing 4 of them. The first 3 minutes happened to be almost the most measured one in Naoya's career. He didn't try to pressure at all and simply waited for his opponent to act, who gladly took on a role of the first number and worked with straight shots to different levels. The slow pace of the fight suddenly changed in the second round when Inoue snatched the initiative and stunned his opponent through the block with a couple of shots. Freaking hooks landed on the guard and the guy wobbled as if he slammed a couple of shots at the bar. Seeing his opponent's wobbly legs, Inoue immediately dropped him and then readily waited for the Filipino to get up. Not realizing the mistake he was making, the contender got back to his feet and got hit with a ruthless combination of punches. Do we need to explain that he couldn't continue after that? Number 9. Karun Jarupianlit. I don't even know what's going on, but the monster's opponents in the new weight class began to literally fall apart from his strikes, and one had to do something about it. The promoters rather quickly found an optimal option, and for his second defense, Inoue went up against a Mexican with a granite chin, David Carmona, who made it to a decision. Right after that, Inoue was given another tough tie, Karun Jarupianlit, with a record of 38-7. Not the best stat, but at least it shows the gap is far from being a punching bag. If you are very attentive, you likely notice that Naoya doesn't like to box for more than 6 rounds, but when it happens, all of his fights look the same. In the beginning, he channels the aura of a young Roy Jones and dodges 80% of strikes, landing power punches to all levels. In the middle of the fight or a bit later, his engine gradually slows down and he enters an energy saving mode, while an opponent with a swollen face tries to catch up until the 10th or 11th round comes. Karun was lucky to survive to the 10th, and the skinny hands of Inoue stormed him with a terrifying rage of Japanese gods. As he ate everything with his face, in the end, the contender collapsed from the left shot.
次々と手が出していきます。右のラッシュ。効いてる。少しよろめいた。少しよろめいたチャレンジャー。前に井上。さあチャンスを迎えた。ここでノックアウトを狙うか。終了。右ストレート。オーロンの右ストレート。
Number 10. Kohei Kono. Inoue has already defended his Super Flyweight Championship 3 times, but still hasn't met his equal. Searching for a strong opponent, the Japanese fought representatives from many different countries, but it appeared that all of them were cut from a different cloth. Finally, Kaibutsu realized that only another warrior with a similar ideology and principles can offer him opposition, so he began to look for an opponent among his countrymen. Okay, I went a little over the top with a samurai theme. In fact, Inoue was offered to face the veteran Kohei Kono, and Monster didn't think for too long to accept the fight. And you know, the fight happened to be really entertaining. Kono didn't want to hide behind the guard and rushed forward, hammering the champion with combinations of 5 or even 7 punches. At first, Naoya wanted to box in his usual style, but when he figured that the opponent might simply run over him with volume, he resorted to power punches looking for a knockout. The bombs from Monster alternated with combinations of stinging shots from Kono, and thus the fight went to the 6th round. Inoue figured that the key to his victory is in the left hook, so he tripled that shot and the opponent went down. Even when the contender got up, Naoya continued to throw left shots and then suddenly unloaded from the right and finished the fight. Number 11. Ricardo Rodriguez. Naoya's last name began to spread around the world, and the West got interested in a scary puncher but wasn't in a hurry to invite him over. The Monster didn't care about that. He went down his own path and knew that success awaited him in the end, so he continued to defend the title. Naoya held the WBO belt, and on the other side of the earth, the Latin American WBO Championship was defended by the Mexican Ricardo Rodriguez. Assessing the situation, the organization decided that instead of 2 champions, there should be 1, so it put the guys against each other. A beginner challenged the master. That's how this fight looked. Inoue boxed not only technically, but also very flashy, almost not getting hit, while the opponent could only dream of the Japanese chin. All attacks of Rodriguez resulted in him falling out of position or missing just a few centimeters, which was the champion's credit. Realizing the difference in their levels, the Monster simply waited for the right moment, and it happened soon. In the 3rd round, Inoue met his opponent with the right hand and then dropped him with a hook. Keeping his left hand ready, the champion soon finished the Mexican with another hook. Number 12. Yoann Boyer. For his next fight, the future star finally went to the US, where he faced Antonio Nieves inside the HBO, who refused to continue after a bad beating in the 6th round. Making a big statement, the Japanese returned back home, where he was given an interesting opponent in the face of French Yoann Boyer, with an impressive record of 41-4. Unfortunately, all these wins were against the guys of questionable level, and Boyer himself hasn't fought for the titles of the major organizations, so there couldn't be any questions on who the favorite is. Y-Boy entered the ring with fear in his eyes. He knew that any mistake would cost him the victory, That's why he was extremely nervous and cautious, while Naoya was going after him with a titanic confidence and knew what the outcome would be. The first call took place at the end of the round, when Boyer got hit with a great left hook. Rising from the dead, in the second round he turned Usain Bolt, and Naoya didn't want to search for the head and began to punish the body. One of such shots reached the liver, and the Frenchman went down again and then again. Being on the brink of life and death, Johan cuddled up and moved along the ropes, but eventually he received an explosive combination to the head and got finished. Number 13. Jamie McDonald. As he got tired of cutting a lot of weight and it's getting a lot harder to do over the years, Naoya decided to change weight classes for the second time in his career, this time settling down at bantamweight division. Considering the power Monster's hands could generate, there weren't any particular issues with this transition. At a new weight, with his status and championships, Inoue immediately got a title fight against the long-lasting Brit Jamie McDonald with a record of 29-2. An experienced and rather dangerous champion held the WBA belt for numerous years and had 6 defenses. I think that guy has a unique tradition to take the new weight class by a storm. Naoya began the fight with an overwhelming pressure which Jamie had nowhere to hide from. The Japanese made the opponent get pressed to the ropes even without strikes and then used that to launch his missiles. The Brit couldn't withstand such an assault for too long, and during one of the explosions he missed the hook and instantly went down. The arena screamed in excitement while Naoya cold-bloodedly waited for his opponent to get up, only to finish him at the ropes. A strong champion was destroyed like a little kid. Number 14. Juan Carlos Payano. Actually, the weight was not the only reason for the Monster's transition to the new division. The main reason was the second season of the World Boxing Super Series. The tournament that is held in 3 weight categories drew a lot of attention the last time, so the organizers, weighing all pros and cons, decided to do a second season, also in the bantamweight division. First of all, the starting lineup consisted of champions, and Inoue, being a newborn holder of the WBA belt and a potential winner, immediately found himself among them. In the quarterfinals, he was given a warm-up fight against an aged world-level amateur boxer, Juan Carlos Payano. In his entire career, Inoue had too few southpaw opponents, and a technical guy of Payano's level in a left-handed stance could be a bone in the throat of the champion. But something went wrong. As soon as opponents collided in the center of the ring and moved a bit, Naoya scored a tooth-shattering knockout with almost the very first combination. One goddamn 1-2 was fatal for the Dominican. He simply went to sleep. And how does one not recognize Inoue as the main favorite of the tournament after that?
Combination, and Payano has stretched on the canvas, and you know where he is, he's face down, the referee is holding the cover. Naoya Inoue with a...
Number 15. Emmanuel Rodriguez. The quarterfinals took place in October of 2018, and the Japanese came out to the semi-finals only 6 months later, and the reason for that was an opponent who was recovering after a slaughter that resulted in a split decision. And who is the opponent? Another contestant for the Muhammad Ali Cup happened to be the IBF champion from Puerto Rico, Emmanuel Rodriguez, with a record of 19-0. At that moment, the Monster's resume accounted for 17-0, so on paper he was even less experienced than the opponent. But did it matter? Inoue needed only 3 minutes to figure out that he can't win the fight from long range. Rodriguez's hands were flying well and fast, and his left hook was consistently looming somewhere near his head, almost like implying that it's too dangerous to get close. But the Japanese decided to capitalize exactly on that. In the second round, he started to cut distance and set up the left hook himself. Emmanuel, thinking that he is the smartest guy in the room, wanted to catch Naoya during another convergence, but Monster was faster and shot with the hook himself. A genius move allowed him to advance forward, and then it was a matter of small. The first knockdown was followed by the second one through extremely painful body punches, and then Monster simply finished an already broken opponent.
Unbelievable for Inoue. Third time he's gone down, rolled over, rocked to the core by those punches. Rocked to the...
That's it guys, did you like the video? Then hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Which of Inoue's knockouts did you think was the most terrifying one? Leave your opinion in the comments below.